I've always loved telling stories and writing, but I was told by many that there was no future in that, and that I would need to learn something else. I pushed my dreams of crafting worlds and telling stories to the side for years, never forgetting them, but never allowing them to be my main focus. All this did, however, was cause me to lack a focus. I chose Charles Darwin to discuss for this video because I feel his journey to mastery resonates with my own. Charles Darwin started his life with a fascination in collecting samples of plants and animals. He enjoyed this, though it worried his father, because his father saw no future in this path. He wasn't trying to hurt Charles, but in his eyes he could only see his son drifting without focus for his entire life, and so he pushed his son onto career paths of his choosing, not Charles's. He wanted Darwin to study medicine, but Darwin couldn't stomach the sight of blood. Darwin was told to get a degree so he could get a secure job in the church, which wasn't something that interested him. Darwin was told that his desires to collect natural samples were those of a child. Now, Darwin managed to find his life path with the help of his teacher, Professor Henslow. He became good friends with the botanist, and it was Henslow who pushed Darwin to accept the position on the Beagle as their naturalist. This would be the job that Darwin wanted all his life, but his father refused and pressured Darwin into declining the offer. However, the more Darwin considered it, the more he realized this was his one opportunity to escape the bleak future that he imagined. Darwin would use what Greene calls the rebellion strategy to get back on his life path. He rebelled originally against his father's desires, and with the support of his uncle, he managed to get his father to agree, albeit reluctantly, to permit him to travel on board the Beagle. It was this trip that would make Darwin and make him a master, even before he set foot upon the Galapagos Islands. Darwin was thrust into an unknown environment. He had lived a sheltered life and had a hard time fitting in among his shipmates. Realizing that he was going to have to learn how to interact with them, Darwin, young, tired, and already homesick, started to treat the ship as his own anthropological experiment. He went into what Greene calls the passive mode, that part of the journey when you observe the new environment you have joined and learn the rules. He sat back and didn't react emotionally or in a self-absorbed way, and because of this he was able to understand his crew so much more easily. If I were given the chance to talk with Darwin today, one of the questions I would ask him is, how are you able to distance yourself from the reality of where you were on the Beagle to look at it from the outside? It's not easy to separate yourself from your own self-obsession, but Darwin was able to teach himself how to read people in a way that was similar to the way Greene described Benjamin Franklin's same discovery. Darwin was able to teach himself to channel his emotions outward, to understand the people around him, and develop his social intelligence. The second question I would ask Darwin is, how do you avoid conforming to what other people want you to do? This is one of the 7 deadly realities that Greene talks about, and I feel is the one that Darwin struggled with the most for much of his young life. He had originally turned down the position of the Beagle to settle for the life others wanted of him. Yet Darwin managed to convince his father to let him go, winning his father as a willing, albeit, as I said, reluctant ally. What social strategies did he use to manage this? Conformism is a deadly reality I am familiar with. I've always walked on the outside of groups, never fully following their mindset. Along the path of life, I had to learn how to balance my desire to be unique with the human need to have friends in a social circle. The field I've chosen to go into, video game design, is a field that is heavily reliant on teamwork, and every studio has their own method of operating. If I learned anything from Darwin's journey, it's that I should not be afraid to take my time in getting to know the culture I'll be working in. I also faced envy many times along the path. I often had trouble keeping quiet in classes or learning sessions because I like to answer and get that positive attention. I'd be the one having my hand raised for every question, even if I already answered only a few seconds before. It wasn't until I started paying attention to others' behaviors and less to my own needs that I realized that I was frustrating them and making them feel hurt. I try to be more aware of this now. Making myself look good at the expense of others is not worth making enemies. With any luck, my social intelligence will grow along the path of mastery, so long as I learn from the successes and failures of those who came before me.